Team Liquid playing from the Netherlands. This is Kelazhur.
In the bottom left is the blue Zerg. He is Cham.
Cham did look very on point yesterday in the ZVZ against Ryu. I gave Ryu quite some love because I think anyone that's still very active on the European server and is still way above 6k, and apparently that is the case for Ryu, I think is legit damn good. And I don't want to say once more that Cham made it look easy, but he was just kind of getting ahead, getting a bit further ahead, and then was able to close it out. So definitely looked like he was on point, looked like a man who has been playing quite a bit of StarCraft. Is that good enough to take out Diego here? That I don't know. We all think it's not going to be the case, but he could very well surprise us.
I am really not. I wouldn't be that surprised if Cham actually wins against Kelazhur. I'd be a little, of course, because Kelazhur is supposed to just be like all the stats go in favor of Kelazhur, their history, the MMR, just their, I guess, their fame basically from being pros over the last 7-8 years. But every now and again, Cham just shows up. I think part of it is that he can have a very unique style. I mean, I'm not going to say unique like Bly unique, but just that he can sometimes throw out roaches when you least expect it. And even if he sometimes gets figured out on that part, they still can work. He's just, I guess, a particularly good player when it comes to that. I know I've said that in the past, though, these past 2 years, and he's actually reduced his roach play down to about 25%. I feel like it used to be 80%. Now it's like 25% of the time. But the threat's always there, and perhaps he can catch Kelazhur off guard.
And we casted some Ratata earlier today, and I kind of feel that Cham and Ratata in a weird way are somewhat similar, where they both have very good macro. They're both able to switch it up a little bit with some builds. As Kelazhur, his repack would already find some success. Would have been really cool if he used the SCV there to block the refinery, because then he would have been able to pick up that first drone immediately. But that drone could still be in a tiny bit of trouble. It's going to be annoying.
Showing off his micro, even cross server. There you go. He's going to continue blocking out the third. Cham did not send his, I guess, a second drone over to what, I want to call the other third, but it's very uncomfortable for the Zerg player just to go willy-nilly right or left. So he sends a second drone to go to the third that's already being blocked out, hoping that his queen will eventually push this back.
This is actually a really good Reaper SCV play. Like, this is taking way too much attention away from Cham. Now that Queen is way out of position, all the links are just busy dealing with this. There is one drone that hasn't been mining for the longest time. Do we get a Zergling pickup as well? No, we don't, because another Queen did just pop right on time. But this is actually a lovely start for Kelazhur. I felt like he was really showboating a little bit. Wow, about the Cyclone?
Oh, no, the supply block from Cham.
Yeah, okay. Too busy dealing with the Reaper.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this looks like a lot of fancy. If this was another, well, Serral's the best example. If this was Serral and we're watching Clem do this, it's kind of like really cool and quite clever. And maybe he gets a little bit of a lead with how much he distracted that third base. He stopped from going down. But then you don't really expect the indirect damage, the distraction factor to necessarily play a part. But it absolutely has here for Cham. Who, I mean, it was a pretty nasty supply block. Now he's back into a rhythm, but it was nasty.
I also want to say he has no circling speed on the way. And maybe Kelazhur is aware of this, as Kelazhur has a couple of Marines moving out and a Cyclone now, but there is still no circling speed on the way for Cham. He fires it up now, 4 minutes and 20 seconds into the game. What is happening here, Zombie Grub?
Indirect damage, man. Same thing that happens to you and me when we get, a single Ling attacking our base. I don't know what to do. Oh, God.
Speak for yourself. I'm flawless, okay?
Yeah, you're flawless. Your Phoenix has 0 energy, and you're like, it's okay. It's fine.
So that is what I'm good at. I am good at lifting stuff, but
yes, you are.
Then we may fall apart elsewhere in the game.
It's seriously something we don't have to talk about a lot when we cast professional games, though, right? So this is what's definitely out of the ordinary. It might seem like we're ragging on Cham, but it's absolutely the truth, is that there's a reason we don't talk about the supply blocks or the late speed or the, whatever else is going kind of weird here. You sure don't have to, but it absolutely is going to affect this game to a point where Kelazhur might just be able to steamroll him in a couple of minutes.
Yep, and also look at what Cham is doing. He's building multiple spore crawlers now because he's got absolutely no idea what the follow-up is. We know that the follow-up is just going to be a lot of Marines and a couple of Medevacts. We don't really need triple spore. Maybe the Cyclone threw him off a little bit as well. This to me feels like a disaster game for Cham, because right after we were talking about that one supply block that Cyclone killed an Overlord, he was supply blocked again, so there were 4 Overlords on the way for the longest time. And then he's just like, well, I guess we built 14 drones, which looks kind of cool, but it's not that cool because you should never be in a position where you can build 14 drones at once in the first place, because a couple of those drones obviously already should have been out.
Right, exactly. It might not seem like a big deal when you're facing someone again on your own level, like us ladder plebs, right? Because 15 minutes doesn't really matter if they mess up the first 6 minutes. But against a guy like Kelazhur, who is not just very good usually, but really has no pressure on his side of the map, there's nothing to disturb him or force errors, then the follow-up should be clean, it should hit really hard, and Cham should be really screwed. I mean, he's again going to be supply blocked. So he's building another 4 Overlords. So this is just one of the worst games possible. If Cham's able to work his way into a decent game from this, I mean, applause there. But it shouldn't happen. It should not happen. Let's see if Kelazhur messes up some control or something like that.
These 2 links that now make it to the other side of the map, that's the first time that Cham has even made it towards the top 50% of the map, as the queens are going to get picked off already. One queen goes down, the other queen falls as well. Now we can just go ahead and fly into the main, and this is already a nightmare to deal with. You don't have Hydras, you don't have a ridiculous amount of queens in the main base, and we can just pick up and drop on the low ground again. A few more Overlords are going to get picked up. This may actually very well turn into the most one-sided game of the day, and that is shocking because we actually thought it was going to be close between these two. The Kelazhur has another medevac with 8 Marines going towards the bottom right side, and I feel like if he just keeps poking with the Marines he currently has, combat shield is done, 1-1 upgrades are done, I think he can steamroll Cham.
I absolutely agree. This is certainly the most one-sided game. Again, if Cham brings this back, it'll be either because Kelazhur makes a huge mistake, really over-dedicates with 16 Marines and 16, then 16, something like that, or if he plays way too passive, which Kelazhur's not really a passive player. So this is already snowballed into... I mean, we call it here most times, but I wanted not to depress you guys. I guess I'll keep coming up with ways, potentially, that Cham brings it back.
Yep, a couple of roaches are going to win the fight against the Marines in the bottom right side, though, Zombie Grub. And the Queens are going to keep the fort base safe as well. We only lost 8 drones. What's 8 drones to a baller like Cham when he still has 76? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I see what you're putting down here. Cham's definitely going to win this game. You know what is funny, though, is that he is right now looking okay. If you looked at this, you're like, what's wrong? What happened? 80 drones, 5 bases, 4.5, whatever, and a hive. The hive is done. He's targeted the hive while taking all this damage and messing up so damn much. Again, supply blocked. And if Kelazhur cannot cut the head off this snake, the snake's going to grow a bunch of fangs, going to grow a bunch of Ultralisk tusks, going to grow vipers abducting stuff, and it's going to suck. And Kayla's going to watch the replay or look at the graphs and be like, how in the world did I not win this game?
Well, these Marines are going to get a pretty good trade, so we go from 7 to 3 queens immediately. The Zerglings do not want to take that fight, but the Ravages are going to back up. I think Kelazhur is going to be shocked when he sees a Viper pop soon, right? Those Roaches are not going to win the fight in the bottom right side. That's a few too many Marines to deal with. So Cham still just kind of running circles. The lack of anti-air is problematic. But yeah, now we actually have Vipers. That's quite sick, man. 9-minute game, 2 Vipers are out. I almost think it's been a flawless game.
Yeah, what went wrong, man? I don't see anything wrong with this picture. Upgrades are on the way.
Look at the minimap, though. The minimap does look a little intimidating. That's a lot of forces going towards the bottom side of the map. And Cham, even though he's got a lot of supply and he's got a couple of banelings here in the mix, the tanks could start sieging up a little bit late. Cham is just going to go for it. He feels that this is his best chance. He's got banelings coming in from both sides. Nice micro, I think, for most of it, though, by Kelazhur. Does end up losing a couple of tanks, ends up losing another one there. And there is still that drop on the left side that's going to hurt.
I'm amazed that it went as well as it did. I mean, Kelazhur still won the fight, of course, but it just was off creep for so long and threw a bunch of tanks. Surprised that Cham isn't down 40 supply, he's down 15. His own upgrades are later, but Adrenal Glands did finish up, and if he can buy 20 seconds, then he'll have 2-2 as well. Of course, he has the Vipers, which, funnily enough, I mean, I was expecting them to take out the tanks. Now there's only 1 tank, 1 Abduct, 1 Parasitic Bomb, maybe is the combination. Kelazhur's already reinforcing. But yeah, now he's got a couple of upgrades. He's got a couple of Vipers. He still has a decent army supply, but he can't make those connections. Oh, a couple of connections, but then loses the Viper and doesn't have very much behind it.
Yeah, decent, not bad. Ultralisk Cavern goes down. How many banelings do we have left? 16. There are 16 banelings. That's more than enough, especially on creep if they get some good connections. Cham really hanging in there, making this a very annoying game at this point for Kelazhur. It probably felt that he was absolutely in the driver's seat and perhaps moments away from finishing. That's a lot of medevacs, by the way. We've got 13 medevacs on the field.
That is a lot. So the supply is kind of inflated here. Look at 30 army supply lead. It's not... Medevacs are helpful, yes, but not 13. 8 maybe is a good number. Regardless, moving on to 3-3. That'll be the next particularly strong time from Kelazhur if this attack doesn't get actually situated and lodged in. It wasn't able to take on the base last time. Let's see if Cham can once again hold on to it. With more banelings forming. I mean, he really has the army supply. But the one Viper... Yeah, the second Viper doesn't have energy yet. Might not be enough. Let's see. Trigger is pulled. Blinding Cloud comes down on that one tank. The Marines get a little spready going on, nice, but the banelings are still getting some of those connections. Does he have any more left after this? That is the question. Cham very low on banelings. He actually has plenty.
Tanks not siege once more. They are going to siege up. One tank's going to get picked up immediately. Those baneling connections are really good. And Cham actually takes the supply lead. And all that's really left here for Kelazhur is medevacs. A lot of them. But they don't quite fight, and now the first ultras are on the way, and these ultras are going to have guidance plating as well. And Kelazhur has no ghosts, no marauders. It's pure marine tank. We're going to get a couple of liberators right now. I feel like 4 fights in a row. The fight started way before the tanks were sieged.
Yeah, so there was never really all that many tanks. Imagine... Okay, I finally have control of my keyboard. So imagine 10 tanks all together sieged up and slowly siege hopping. The abducts are coming in one at a time. It's too slow going, and suddenly Kelazhur has a very secure kill on that 4th base, which maybe turns into a snowball effect. Instead, everything gets cleaned up. The tanks are lost. The Marines get a little overtaken on creep anyways, but even if they didn't, without those tanks, it's hard to take on a mass baneling army. And suddenly we're in this late game that really does not look that bad for Cham as he's finishing up all of his upgrades. Kelazhur is 3-3, only ahead by 20 seconds or so. And yeah, as you're pointing out, the lack of ghosts, even the lack of marauders, Kelazhur's transition over into the additional 3 barracks with tech labs was kind of late, all things considered. I think he added the barracks quick enough, but maybe not the tech labs. Yeah, he's adding them on now.
I mean, Liberators and tanks can be good enough, of course, against Ultras, and these drops are still going to be pretty annoying to deal with. It's not like Cham has that many static defenses, so a few drones are going to get picked off. At least the Queen lives for now, and the Zerglings will win this fight. Barely, ever so barely, but it's going to be good enough. Tiny drop in the bottom right side, but we've got banelings here. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Kelazhur has obviously messed up a couple of his pushes. He had a great start, great first couple of minutes. The next push, we really can mess it up. Because if we then lose all of our tanks and we lose the libs too, then we are in serious trouble.
Cham has really gotten control over the game plan at the very least. I do think that what keeps Cham resilient, even when he makes some of these macro mistakes, it's certainly not the first time I've noticed, repeated supply blocks from the guy. But I think his direction is very clear for him. He has a plan and he sticks to it. So it's almost always a faster hive than you would expect in his position, or for a Zerg player in general. It's almost always, I guess, this composition too, which is a little bursty, baneling Ravager. And he just is able to survive long enough and say, yeah, my plan worked out, now I'm going to go. So the next phase of the plan, kill the tanks, or not maybe, but anyways, take a good trade, and then maybe go into Broodlords. And if you do it quick enough and the Terran player is not expecting it, it can be a kill move. So this is, I think, Cham's strength. He can survive, and then he has a drive. He knows exactly how he wants to play things out.
Oh my goodness, a drive to survive there? Well done, Zondervan. Have you been watching it?
No, it's definitely on my list though. Even though I don't really care about Formula 1, it sounds so good. So
it is pretty good. Cham's got 6 infestors on the way now as well, and the infestor upgrade, the pathogen glands, even burrow is done, so maybe we can burrow a couple of banelings. I guess the nice thing is that there isn't that much creep, so he should be able to burrow banelings almost everywhere and potentially get a couple of big connections. I really did not think we are going to get a 15+ minute game here, but here we are. And it definitely looks better for Cham now than it's ever done before.
It's a pretty comfortable spot for the guy, really. So many upgrades, so many spellcasters. Kelazhur is he's not only an early mid-game player. I do think of him as kind of a fancy player sometimes, so that's more highlighted in the early and mid-game with Marine control, but I'm sure he has a great late game. But again, if he ends up losing this game, which is really, don't know who's going to win at this point, it's pretty even. I I think if he looks back at that replay, Kelazhur would actually be really sad. If I was his coach, I'd advise him not to look at the replay, not look at how many times Cham got supply blocked or how far ahead he was against a Roach player, right? Which really means a lot when you're up in supply against that player. It's just not a position I thought we were going to be in. Kelazhur,
Infestor.
he's about to get fungled.
Yep, that's good. And man, there are infestors everywhere. This is cool by Cham. Absolutely thinking ahead of the scenario. Now look at his army though, and I'm like, what do we fungal? Those 7 Marines, a couple of ghosts. Like a couple of ghosts would be nice, but that is the ultimate meat grinder. I would not run into that choke point, even with the cool infestors on the top left and the top right. Maybe a few blinding clouds could be big there, or just a parasitic bomb.
Yeah, Neural Parasite and EMP'd. It didn't hit all of the ghosts, and I thought he was going to wait for the snipes to come down before fungling, but he actually pulls the trigger on the infestors. The rest of the infestors aren't getting any of those fungals, but it looks like, yeah, that was just such a tough place to break. Cham losing out in the supply big time.
Yep, loses all the Banelings, loses the Ultras, loses a couple of the Vipers towards the tail end as well. We are going to remax on 11 Ultras and 66 Links. I think that Kelazhur maybe even saw that. All the Liberators are still alive as well. Let's not forget about that. And Kelazhur can actually just continue pushing, but I feel like he's wondering what he wants to spend his money on, as the ghosts are now on creep cleaning duty for a little while. It's like,
kind of a weird army to have out in the field. It is kind of good. Like, it kind of covers itself, but I would be really concerned if Cham actually could remax fast, and he could. We know that 11 Ultras are on the way. Was late to building those Corruptors. And I guess Kelazhur is fine here. I'd be worried about kind of overstaying. You're welcome. But he's reinforcing. We're all good. Cham is going to have a second chance to break this. And if he does it poorly this time around, then it's just game over. But last time he had a bank, so.
Tank spread by Kelazhur was really cool though, right? It was very hard for one blinding cloud to cover multiple tanks. Cham is coming back for seconds. He feels it's time to go again. There is still that infestor on the top side. Lands a fungal on the ghosts, and these ultras having the time of their life. Most of the ghosts go down, and I think it's safe to say that the round 2 went a lot better than round 1. Is it good enough to keep on pushing? That I personally don't think so, and I hope that Cham agrees.
Well, that's the worst thing about Ultras, right? They can push past an army on the offensive, apparently even that army, which is really siege heavy. But when it comes to dealing with little bits of ghosts and marauders in SimCity, they don't do so hot. So I'm glad that Cham pulled back. It's still such a funny engagement. It was over in a flash. That fungal was amazing. That was clearly the fungal that Cham was looking for, and it worked out great. But it is kind of funny that Cham was like, I got to break this position, right? He really just head-butted through a wall, and the second time the cement finally broke. But it was like, well, could you have done other things? And he's like, no. Cement wall needs to be broken. All right, fair enough. You did it. Congratulations. Now he can continue playing around. And now he's going to do a little bit of that multitasking. Now we got a little bit of a split army.
Kelazhur has obviously done a great job in pushing back the creep, but I'm still surprised to see how little creep there is. You compare it to some of the games we saw earlier today, even the creep rate of Vanya was phenomenal. This is like some of the least creep I've seen in a while, but maybe it kind of works out as we do break through here, and all of these tanks very clumped up. The Ultras will go down in the end, only a couple of tanks go down. We have the Corruptors and Ultras in the top left. They will successfully take out a planetary, but I have the feeling that this is costing Cham a whole lot more than what he's getting out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many dead Ultras. Yeah, I mean, even if those had survived, I don't know if there's a lot of transfuses, only 5 queens, so they would have been dead in a couple of seconds anyways. So down to 1 Ultra, 5 are on the way. Supply looks okay for Cham, but overall supply, right, looks okay. Army supply down 50. Yeah. That's the more concerning
down
part.
50 and then double digits when it comes to the minerals. It's like, okay, that's going to be tough. Kelazhur throws down a scan, sees a lot of these morphing banelings, gonna get in range of them, even drops a nuke for good miasses. That's something we haven't seen too much of yet. Maybe we can get a couple of big baneling connections on creep. Is it too late, or is there still a chance? It seems like it's too late. This time around, the tanks are sieged, and they are getting plenty of good shots off. No nuke for us, though, zombie drop.
No, fortunately not. A couple of banelings hitting the heart of a bio army, but still trades that Cham can't exactly take. Okay, Liberators get destroyed by the Corruptors, and the Ultras just shy of killing those last few tanks. It still doesn't matter. Cham is out of cash. He's out of second chances, and out of just about everything else. You know, banelings, 20-something lings. Kelazhur has finally found his winning moment, but it took him 20 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, he probably still feels pretty good about this game, though. He's like, all right, I got caught off guard once or twice in the center of the map. My tanks were in siege, and that's why the fights were a little bit more difficult than it was supposed to be. And of course, we got to go easy on Kelazhur. He is playing these games on the American server from Europe, so it's going to be hard for him to have picture-perfect marine micro. I gotta say, it's been pretty good, though, as this time around, do we have enough buy units surviving to finally get Cham out of this game, or are the 3-3 links with Adrenal Glands a little too good? I think with a couple of extra units, we're done. But yeah, Cham, I mean, Kelazhur probably is like, all right, maybe I could have won a bit sooner, but overall was pretty damn good. I have probably no idea how good of a start he truly had.
Yes, I don't think he knows how much Cham was messing up, basically. You're looking at that from Kelazhur's point of view. You see maybe later Ling speed, and you say, oh no, did the guy get really greedy? Is he getting away with it? Maybe you see the, I don't know, lack of creep spread, and you're like, that means I'm a good position, but then suddenly you get overwhelmed by Banelings, so you're like, okay, maybe that didn't matter so much. It's not really things that you would be able to determine while you're playing the game. Like, oh, that guy's clearly supply blocked. That's why he doesn't have as many roaches as usual. Like, that's not usually what you're thinking. But Kelazhur, if he did watch the game, he'd know that maybe there's an opening a bit earlier. It doesn't matter. The game is still his.
Yep. I gotta say, his supply is a little bit lower now too, but obviously Kelazhur still has all the bases, hasn't really taken a lot of economic damage in this game at all, and after 22 minutes, it is the man who had the flying start in this one who takes the 1 lead. Like, I actually felt that when he dropped the extra barracks and he had a Cyclone, I was like, if he just rallies that Cyclone with the Reaper that he's got out, and those Marines to the other side of the map, Cham's got no link speed. Like, Stim is gonna kick in. I was like, this is a TVP all over again. He's gonna Stim and he's gonna wipe the floor with 5 queens. I was like, this could have been like a 5-minute game, but it went on for a lot longer, and Cham definitely had some of his moments. He had beautiful engagements. He had cool plays with the Infestors, but he was obviously making life very hard on himself early on. Even though he had the economic lead, it just it felt like there was zero offense, like legitimately zero offense for 8-9 minutes. The first 2 links were like at minute 8. That's the first time he made it past the halfway point of Hardwire. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And the point I was going to bring up as well is that even if he was doing well enough on the defensive, he never got any punch over to Kelazhur's side of the map. So there is always that idea that you were losing out. You knew that the Terran player was on 7 bases, billion orbitals, and it was going to be a tough game. But I do think that he had an opportunity to slow things down and try and go after those side bases, but it kind of gets centered around the center. Mm-hmm. And I know that that's, it's a problem that doesn't... it doesn't really get to its peak as far as problems go until you get close to a hatchery. For Cham, he sees that army and he's like, I gotta kill it because it's gonna get closer. It's gonna inch closer. It's gonna inch closer. But I do wonder if he could have gone for other ideas, could have gone for other options. Instead of bulldozing through it, then maybe had a little bit more of that back and forth that only happened for 1 split second when he lost all those ultras. That was the only time he was aggressive. So... because he got to that position. He got to a position where he had 5,000 minerals, 2,000 gas, and he was on 6 bases. Like, he got to a position where actually he could have been comfortable throwing some ideas, right, left and right. But he kind of focused in on that center. Mm-hmm.
Maybe if we would have taken out, like, if we had a better start, maybe we had more map control, we could take out some of the rocks, and then he would have been able to open up a couple of different attack paths, and then he doesn't have to attack through the center where all those liberators and all those things were very sieged up. Let's see what Blackburn has in store for us. In the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of the man who's now 1 map away from making it into the playoffs in the DreamHack Masters Latin American region, and that is, of course, where he belongs. Representing Team Liquid, it is Kelazhur.
In the bottom right, very much having a tough start to game number 1, he is Cham.
I was wondering if Kelazhur was going to do something crazy. In the past, we've still seen him try to bust out some Reaper stuff, and maybe, I don't know, maybe he feels like switching it up, but not happening yet. If I normally think of a Zorg down 0-1 in the best of 3, and then you're like, all right, what's map 2? You're like, Blackburn, it's like, ouch. Like, what's map 3? It's like Curious Minds. I'm like, well, do we need to really play game 2 at that point, Zombie Gruff? Because that seems to be a proper uphill battle.
Yeah, Cham let him through, so maybe he has personal confidence on the maps, or maybe he did have something special planned. We won't know about game 3 unless Cham wins this one on Blackburn. Funnily enough, I feel like as far as the mid to late game goes, Cham's kind of warmed up on the idea of just butting heads in kind of one position, which is what Blackburn does a lot of. So when you get to that point, I guess we have a weird amount of confidence in Cham. And he got to the mid game. He got enough Banelings. He got the Ravagers that he needed to take out the tanks and take on engagement. So I'm not so worried about that, which is weird to say. I'm more worried about the openers. Definitely more worried. And you know what? I said maybe for like the sake of mental focus, maybe Kelazhur wouldn't want to look at that last game because he'd see all the mistakes Cham made and went, oh man, couldn't I kill this guy faster? I do feel like if he knew how thrown off Cham actually was, he would have opened something aggressive, like his 3-Rax Reaper that he does. Not on this map, maybe like on a Berlingrad, but maybe throw it in on here just because Cham was so messed up.
Kelazhur is very good in the opening phase of any game, though, in almost any matchup. There's a lot of European pro gamers that have praised the Reaper micro of Kelazhur in the past. If you watch some of the streams of Harstem or Lambo, they will talk about it. That on the European server, other than Liquid Clum, there is no one better with the Reapers than Kelazhur. And when it comes to a single Reaper, Kelazhur could even rival the micro of Clem there. So it is not a shame for Cham to float a few too many minerals and be thrown off a little bit. I do wonder how we're going to deal with this eBay block, because that's going to take a little while, my friend. The drone is going to always get one hit off, and then you're like, huh, is that it? And the links as well. Can we just run into the natural now? Oh, he's going to go for the drone. No, he won't get it.
As far as knowing how much he threw Cham off goes, I don't know if he knows about the supply blocks, but he does know that that third base was hella late last game.
Yeah.
So he's just doubling down on that. And this is even a worse map to say, oh, forget it, I'll take the other base. Like, you don't do that on Blackburn. And it's easy, you don't take the gold.
Oh, this is great. Reaper play. Can he get the drone? Yes, God. He does get the drone. So got 2 Zerglings already. Knocked the Queen back a couple of times. Is delaying this hatchery by almost a solid minute at this point. And we already got 2 Zerglings. Can we get number 3? No, we already got 3 out of 4. Throws the grenade. You are kidding me. You are kidding me. Ah, this is great stuff. Kelazhur is so good with Reapers, man.
It's so silly, man. It's so silly. Queen has to slow walk away. Finally, the hatchery comes down yet again. Cham has forgotten link speed. So, and I think this time around, he also forgot to pull his drones out of gas, which I think might have been more mindful of last time. Oh, he pulled one out already just to get like, just because the builder was going to go for it, but he still has 224 gas that he's not used. He did not get supply blocked at the same time or as long this time around, but it's still such a massive headache for the Zerg. Cham now has a Cyclone and no Lings with speed anyways. Yeah. So like, the Cyclone do damage.
If Kelazhur would be feisty and he would rally his Marines to the other side of the map with the Cyclone, like what can Cham do? I feel like Cham can do absolutely nothing. I don't know how many Marines we currently look at. Like 6 Marines, a Reaper and a Cyclone. How is Cham gonna even protect that hatchery?
Yeah, I really wouldn't. But this is where I think it becomes more shrouded for Kelazhur's point of view.
He really
it looks like he's done a hell of a lot of damage and he has the third base timing, but as far as what's available behind it, he can't quite tell. You might think Lings don't have speed, then boom, as you race towards them, the speed finishes. So I can't blame him for doing what he's done.
Sorry, the thing is, Cham lost all his Zerglings, right, to the Reaper. So it's not like he's gonna see a slow Ling walk around anytime soon, and he's like, oh, I've got no Ling speed. Like at this time around, he didn't like delay it or forgot it for a little bit. Like this can actually be, you know, ultra embarrassing game-ending mistake where he fires up 30 Zerglings soon and they're all going to be slow because he's getting melee as well. But he's got 0 Lings out on the map, so he's not going to. Okay, now he makes a couple of Lings, but still no Ling speed.
Yeah, he's gonna realize he doesn't have Ling speed as he's forced to defend. That's absolutely terrible. And it's such a, I don't want to say it's an easy mistake to make, but basically what happened, right, is that he kind of forgot about it and then it went on for so long that he figures it's already completed. You know, it's just, it's an easy gap of time that your brain's like, we don't have to worry about it for this much. And then you realize your mistake.
I'm gonna take a look at his vision. I'm following the camera of Cham and he's just building some spore crawlers. He fires it up now. He realizes it as he takes a look at a couple of Lings and ran into the main base. And Kelazhur is gonna have a little giggle when he sees slow Zerglings. He's like, this can't be real. We're 7 minutes into the game. Do you have a bunch of roaches with 1-1 upgrades? The answer is no. Slow Lings and all of it. At least I guess we have a Baneling nest so we can get a couple of Banelings. But like if Diego just sends his army to the other side of the map, this is 110% over.
I agree. but I think it's also a lot because he doesn't know if there's roaches. I mean, Cham can be a roach player, so it can be summed up as kind of thinking that your opponent's actually playing better than they are. All right, I'm sure that Kelazhur does keep in mind all the times that he's taken Cham for granted and then lost kind of in even silly ways sometimes. In previous games, he'd attack when there's actually 30 roaches, and he'd be like, oh, well, duh, and he'd lose the game. So I think that's really weighing on him and why he's not going to cut the head off. I mean, I kind of hope he does, but just because it's been such a big problem with this metabolic boost. It's like Cham needs to be punished, so he never does it again. Never again in the season.
And we do have 7 Spore Crawlers, so I kind of feel like dropping the main is a bit dicey, but we can get a tank on the low ground there. That's actually kind of cool, and the Marine's going to help out a little bit as well. Mailing speed is halfway done. Cham has fired up +2 melee, but that's the only thing. I would love to see Kelazhur have 1 medevac in the top side of the map, so we can actually dance around that gold base. I think that'd be very sick. Cham is like, I've got Ling speed, Lings are fast, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can counterattack, but Kelazhur left quite a few units at home.
Right. Probably not gonna do all that much, but in a weird way, all right, this is disturbing Cham again, that's for sure, but I was gonna say in a weird way, this isn't necessarily all that threatening of a push with this tank not able to hit the actual hatchery. Slow Banelings trying to go for a bit of a run by are actually gonna hit the heart of the SCVs. 11 of them go down, a tank fell as well, as far as run bys go, and now the roly-poly perhaps at the right second. Oh, very, very close. Still, overall, 16 SCVs go down. While Cham still holds on to his main base, most importantly, he is mis-macroing during a lot of this, but he is also clearing things up.
Yep, and Kelazhur are actually struggling a little bit now, down 15 supply. Should be able to clean up the majority of the links that were left behind there, but would have been so lovely to see just a couple of Marines in the top side, because that gold is so vulnerable. It's so hard to defend when all you're working with is Ling Bane, and this is not the kind of game where the entire map is covered in creep or you've got 100 Lings running around. Like, that gold should have been punished at least once or twice by a couple of Marines, and it has gone completely uncontested so far.
You know, what's also kind of funny is we talked a lot about the potential of just throwing Marines in Cyclone singular, at Cham. If he had actually opened up a more standard Terran way by going into the Hellions, that also would have been disastrous for someone without Link speed. He missed the opportunity both times because he went right into Marines.
How many queens do we have left? There are 9 queens, so they can definitely be tanky. Cham is going to try to find some more damage on the top left side. He's got a lot of Lings, a lot of Banes, and everything is pretty wide open. He's going to go for the Planetary Fortress. There aren't too many SCVs to kill here. Can we repair, though? We can repair for a split second. This is going to be somewhat
Oh, no.
close.
Oh, no.
Okay,
Oh, my God, it's going to die. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I really didn't think there was going to be enough there. That also kind of distracted Kelazhur, so his attacks a little bit later in that main base, giving time Cham to bring his army over, but also more importantly to make more Banelings. And there's the focus here. Oh, coming from the left side as well. Cham has figured this one out. The Marines get picked up, but only like 6 of them. The tanks get destroyed. Cham is still not macroing quite to the full extent that he could. He does have those additional macro hatcheries, but is still struggling on that department. He is holding on a lot of sides.
We are punishing the gold,
go.
though. Yeah, this is such a lovely base to attack. The other day, I had a little PvT here as well, where I was like, I'm going to take their gold, and I played against a Terran that wasn't exactly Kelazhur level, but I was going insane with all the pickups from the left side to the right side. If you don't have any flying units, it is just a bit of a nightmare to deal with, so good to see Kelazhur capitalizing on that little opportunity. I gotta say, I feel like he made life very complicated by being in that slow zone over and over again. Like, the idea is great if you have maybe a couple of Widow Mines or you have a bit of a heads up, but by the time the Banelings are in range of the Marines and tanks, that's the first time he sees it, and basically everything just dies immediately. So I think he makes life a little bit harder than it had to be. If he would have pushed through the center, I think that would have been way more success for Kelazhur.
True. Well, once again, Cham gets to a hive. Not as fast as last game, but he gets to a hive under all this immense pressure and all the mistakes that he's making. So we are getting that +3 melee. And considering last game, I think one of his other focuses would usually be Adrenal Glands. Maybe also forgetting that. No Vipers as of yet, but also we have many tanks to really take on.
We have 13 medevacs out on the map once more, Zombie Grub, and we're building 2 extra. So we're going into 15 medevacs and 74 SCVs.
That's a lot of not fighting units. That's a lot of... Again, medevacs numbers. 8's pretty good. 10, okay. But anything higher is a little Little weird, saves a handful of SCVs and does save the planetary
cute.
this time around. But Cham has finally been able to get a couple of larva injects popping. So he's finally using all of his money. He's up to 82 drones again on the 5 bases. I mean, he did use his gold very early on, so that steam power is going to be running out soon. But he's gotten to that hive. He knows how the last game went. He can absolutely take some decent engagements.
Well, imagine if you're Cham and you see that amount of manifacts, you're like, well, that's tough. What's underneath? With a mine shot is connecting to a couple of lings and a couple of banelings there. Cham setting up a nice little surround potentially, but we do have quite a few mines in the center. And the mines do have running claws as well. I think you mentioned that. Oh, Widow mine shot. Okay, that could have been a whole lot worse because I don't think Cham was looking.
Yeah, 100%. That could have been a lot worse. Would love some burrow. We didn't really get to see any burrowed banelings last time around, but again, that lack of creep spread kind of working favorably for the idea. And I don't think Kelazhur has been necessarily thinking about them. It's so easy on Blackburn to know where the attack paths are as well, but maybe in the future, Cham just kind of holding on, hoping to survive while also dealing some counter damage. Really something that was missing from last game is being incorporated here.
Top left,
but
top
we don't
left.
have as many of the late game units.
Was good, but I actually thought it was going to connect with a lot of the banelings because it was very obvious that Cham obviously is defending at home as well. Trying to activate a couple of these mines, going for a big counterattack now as he doesn't just try to take out the planetary, but look at all these lings and banelings running into the third. That's going to be minus 40 SCVs if you ask me, very quick. We do have a bunch of Widow mines though. Can they keep Kelazhur safe? They kind of can. It's just the overseers are left. A couple of lings are going to try to break through, but there is still such a big Terran army. I want to say the top right side, but then I look at that army and I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of medevacs, but okay, it's a couple of marines left.
Is Kelazhur just going to lose here? Because the problem is his army, medevacs aside, is still pretty good. It's going to be on creep this entire time, and that just doesn't work out very well if the Widow mines don't get beautiful shots. So that's usually what is the nail in the coffin for a Terran player in this particular position. We're like, well, the army, 3-3, right? And you're like, well, on creep against banelings. You know, one player is continuing to damage, the other one's kind of hard stopped with banelings on creep.
Can he make a planetary to the top left? Is that possible? Can we make it?
I
mean, I think it's okay. Like enough units popped in the main to at least keep a couple of these production facilities safe. Widow mine shot is decent. It could have been bigger. I mean, Kelazhur has 3 SCVs, but I feel like he's winning Zombie Grub. But maybe I'm getting carried away because I see 18 medevacs, and I'm like, there's gotta be something for those 18 medevacs.
I think you're still right, though. This could absolutely go Kelazhur's way. With that army supply lead, even with the comical number of medevacs, you can still win. You just need to control really well, like pre-split pretty much all the time, right? It's just that, you know, when you say 3 SCVs and I think Kelazhur can win, that's just a funny sentence.
Let's go for an orbital in the top left. Okay, Cham does lose the most important base because obviously there aren't too many resources left at the third. Cham was gonna go for the top left, but he has changed his mind, and there's a fight happening on creep. Widow mines are getting forward. I mean, there are still a couple of units hiding inside of these medevacs as well. If there's one thing Kelazhur doesn't have to worry about, is that he cannot pick up everything, because that will absolutely not be an issue. The Widow mine connecting with the majority of the banelings, but so many banelings coming in from the left. Kelazhur trying to pick up whatever he can. He's got 73 supply, and reinforcements are arriving as Cham is using the last few pennies that he has on making a few extra lings and banes. This is comical, Zombie Grub.
It is comical, because he's 18 medevacs and 22 marines. Like, 22 marines is really not all that much. It can be, because Cham's not exactly in a much better position, but it's mostly the medevacs.
If Cham would have sent like 2 Zerglings to the top left side and he would have been nibbling away at those mules, I think he would have been winning the game by now. He's gonna check again. No, he loses a couple of drones and now he turns around. He still hasn't seen the base in the top left side.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a lot of free mining. That's the extra pennies that results in 6 more marines. Suddenly you're up against 50 marines, not 20. And that is potentially game deciding. Kelazhur, I gotta say one thing. He is always capable of escaping. He's got benefacts aplenty. Nothing to kill those. We got ourselves kind of a base race situation, as weird as that is. Especially a TVZ. Kelazhur has to be so careful. He has to pick up on an instant notice, because he cannot let those banelings connect with his marines.
Yeah, and Kelazhur, I guess, kind of needs to do something about the base in the top right side as well. Maybe we can use one of the 18 medevacs to take a look at what's happening in the top right side. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, this time around, we are going to fully evacuate the Terran main. But Kelazhur has been mining for a little while. Lift the orbital. Okay, Widow mines with good connections. During all of this, the orbital did die in the main base. 2 Zerglings. I may as well. Zerglings killed the orbitals on the drone.
Yes, they did. There was no lift. They focused elsewhere. At Widowmine, I don't think the Banelings would have collided in the army anyways. There just wasn't enough Banelings, but that Widowmine getting a beautiful shot obviously helps a ton. And now Cham is trying to rebuild his Baneling nest and his spawning pool. Kelazhur's supply block, though, so even though he saved some production, saved some cash, he can't produce anything. This is certainly another Clown Fiesta, perhaps even better than the PvP we saw earlier.
Yep, we're gonna lose this Baneling nest, but we do have 19 Banelings morphing. We're gonna give up on this hatchery. Now it's all about that one base in the top right side. At this point, we have more Banelings on the map than Zerglings. Is this the game-deciding fight? Obviously, Cham is gonna have a very hard time ever killing flying buildings if he loses this hatchery too. And here we go.
Oh gosh,
this is it. I mean, just pick up. You don't have to split your way to victory. You can pick up. You've got 18 medevacs.
Wow, I can't believe he split. I mean...
He loses.
Yeah.
Or?
Well,
how much is left?
No. Yes? No.
2 Marauders and a Marine? No. Oh, we go for the safe base. Nice. This game is far from over. We are never going home today, Zombie Grub. Look at these 2 Marauders. These 2 Marauders are going to kill like 8 rounds. Come on, Kelazhur, show us some cool Marauder micro. There is 0 NTR. Let's go.
Right? Yeah, there's no spores. A queen is building. I'm actually kind of happy that Cham built a queen.
Imagine you drop those 2 Marauders between the gas and the mineral patch. What are the Lynx going to do?
Nothing. They will not kill the Marauder. They will not. If he ever loses one of these Marauders, I'm taking back his micro good card, you know? Like, you should never lose the Marauders. And now we have the very, very slow process of killing Medevacs with 1 queen.
Okay, the Medevacs kind of need to go home because we have 5 Marines there and there are a couple of Zerglings out and about. Yep. Kelazhur is aware of it, but he's like, hey, I'm going to leave 1 Medevac behind. You know what? 2 Medevacs behind so we can heal up the 2 Marauders. The other 15 Medevacs are going to heal the living hell out of the last few Marines. It is very important we save these Marines, though, because that's like the only firepower we have. Okay, the good choke point. We can pick up, Kelazhur. We are allowed to pick up. We are allowed to pick up.
There you go. I mean, he's going to lose the mules, but, you know, obviously temporary. Energy keeps on going up. Even when you lift the orbital, the spores were made to try and help, but the Marauders will actually be capable of taking those down. But speaking of taking down structures, all the barracks will die. Kelazhur can't replace those. He's got 0 workers. The orbitals, he knows where they are. Cham knows. This game is absolutely freaking crazy. The Marauders are tanking like a boss. Pick up, though! Oh. Jesus.
Okay. The Cham has 9 drones and he's got some income. Kelazhur can wall off with the barracks, by the way. Can't he just like lift the barrack, like drop the barracks? He lost all of them. They use the orbital and the barracks to wall off. If you have 3 Marines behind that, he can never go through. Why don't we create a wall off?
Yeah. He's thinking of it now. It took a little while for the cogs to turn in the brain, you know? But
what? Why? How many links? Okay, 29 links. Yeah, 29 links against 3 Marines and a Marauder.
Yeah, he would never be able to rebuild any units.
Yeah, I guess not.
That's so insane, though. I actually thought that the micro Terran units and Medevacs, man, I thought that was going to win it.
Wow. That happened, Zombie Girl. We were a part of that. You and I, we shared that.
Beautiful thing there. StarCraft is a beautiful game. You know, you get casual, like, 7-minute speedling timing, and then base race sub 150 supply for the rest of the game. Sounds good.
And more Medevacs than I think I have ever seen in a competitive game of StarCraft 2. We had 18. They were all in the same place most of the time. There were more Medevacs than there were bio units underneath. And I guess that Kelazhur really thought he had the game in the bag on the top right, or maybe he felt that he was on the clock because he was obviously walking into a trap. Like, that was his army. He had a lot of Medevacs and a decent amount of bio. And if these armies would look at each other, Kelazhur's army would win that like 10 out of 10 times. Off creep, he would win it 10 out of 10 times. But the only chance that Cham had was on creep, and all the Banelings going at once was still creating a lot of chaos on the other side of the map. And Kelazhur could have picked up, but tried to split. And yeah, that was a painful one.
Right. Yes. I guess I can... The thing is, I feel like the split was more of a theory thing than an actual what was on the page thing. Like, splitting in a low econ situation where every Baneling is really hard to reproduce would usually be better for the Terran, who has mules dropping and Marines pumping, you know, most of the time. So I would say usually Kelazhur is correct, but just the amount of Banelings that Cham had still managed to afford was too much. And if Kelazhur had been able to process that for an additional couple of seconds and not just be hyper-focused, StarCraft mode, I think he would have agreed and he would have picked up. And he would have said, I'll cut it down slowly over time. But he just figured, probably go the thing he practices a billion times a day, which is splitting against a small number or smaller number of banelings. Crazy.
I'm really sad that we didn't get to see the two Marauders just absolutely monster mode that towards the end of the game, because I feel like if you have two medevacs and the Spore Crawlers, they weren't done yet and the Queen wasn't out, and you put the two Marauders between the mineral patch and the extractor, and then you have two medevacs healing, like only 2 Lings at a time can attack, or maybe 3. But I actually think they can just do that all day, and I think they would single-handedly win the fight against the Lings, and then they can start working on the drones again. That was a game of StarCraft with a capital S. Let's see who's going to close out this fantastic best of 3. In the top left side of Curious Minds, we're looking at the main base of the man who does not believe in circling speed early, but he does believe in the power of the Lings and Banes. This is Cham.
And in the bottom rights for Team Liquid, he is Kelazhur.
I mean, it was an exciting game, at least.
Absolutely. It was exciting from start to finish. What Cham's doing with this later speed is making the game exciting. Is he going to die because of it? Is he not going to die because of it?
Normally, they're just like, all right, we're dancing a little bit, we're fighting over the creep tumor. But no, Cham, he just puts you on the edge of your seat. Like, is this it? Are the Marines coming? But then all the Marines stay at home, and it's like, oh my goodness. Cham makes 8 Lings. They are slow. He fires off Link speed. The man is an entertainer.
So this is twice that Kelazhur was able to see at least later Link speed. Again, you don't want to be the person who blitzes into slow Lings or slow banelings or, Marines without stim, and then suddenly the upgrade finishes, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm stupid. But this is 2 times that the speed has been rather late. And again, Kelazhur doesn't know about maybe supply blocks or the macro going poorly, but he knows that Link speed is late. I would love for this to be the game that he sends whatever army he makes across the map. And I kind of hope that it's Hellions, because I think that would be the safer call. It'd still be really brutal for Cham to hold without speed, but it also wouldn't be maybe as dedicated as like Marine and the Cyclone. But that's actually only if he starts blocking out the 3rd base, which maybe he's not going to do this time around.
Nope, the SCV is on patrol, or maybe... He didn't see the drone sneak out then, I guess, right? I was listening to you, so I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, he did not see it, but I think you would... I thought you would have assumed, really, and sent the... Because usually what happens is, right, the SCV goes to 1/3 location, and then if you are thinking the Zerg capable of taking the other one, the Reaper goes to that location. Unless you're scared of early roach aggression, and then you would just go for the full-on scout. But once he saw the hatchery, I would have expected him to move the SCV, but no, not so much.
Nice Ling micro data by Cham. Did not lose a single Zergling. He had to buy quite a bit of time for the Queen, and we know how good Kelazhur is with that Reaper. And we do fire up Zergling speed awfully quick this time around. 2 minutes and 50 seconds. I don't even know this guy anymore.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But that's the power of getting to do what you practice. You don't have a 3rd hatchery that's delayed by a full minute and a half. You do the rest of your build a lot better. That's why verse AI practice makes you feel like a boss, and verse human practice makes you feel like a bumpkin.
Unless you're laser, he feels like a boss against both.
I know he does. So this is written all over a laser's play. It's like, I don't care I'm down 20 supply. I'm a freaking boss. Let's go.
At Home Story Cup, he was so proud to show me how he's been practicing. And then he's got his feet on the desk, and he's in a 22-minute game against the computer. Very easy AI. Moving Spore Crawlers and Queens around. He's like, see, I'm practicing late game against Protoss. I thought he was joking when Lambo looked at me. He's like, he does this all the time. I was like, okay. That's a way of practicing.
Well, Kelazhur finally opens up with Hellions, but without the big delay in the 3rd hatch, and with the Reaper just going down there, it's definitely not the prime position that he would have been in the previous 2 games had he done this exact same thing. Oh, nope, that's not gonna work.
Kelazhur probably surprised as well. He's like, man, you already have Link speed? What happened to the builder from the previous games? Curious to see how good the Cloak Banshee control is going to be. I feel like that's traditionally an opening that Kelazhur is damn good with as well. And even if you are a very experienced Zerg player like Cham, it can be pretty hard to have the queens in the right place and always have detection where you need it the most.
Well, I do think that Kelazhur might be just shifting the harassment a little bit later. Like, obviously, that is what he's doing. But in my mind, he's also shifting the indirect damage a bit later, too. I think that Cham might still struggle against this, even though he's supposed to be prepared. Yeah, having those queens always in the right position, always being able to pull the drones instantly is a bit more of a question.
That Sport Crawler is a little bit late. If the Banshee cloaks, I mean, it is going to finish up, but it should be able to pick up at least 2 drones and maybe 3 on the way out. We get 1 more. Yep, 1 drone, very unfortunate. I guess we can just start shooting at that Sport Crawler non-stop, though. You will get a cancel on it.
Yes. Yes, and he would have been out of range of the Sport Crawler. But, now I think it's more of a question of, do you want to bother or do you want to focus on something else? And he's probably focusing on something else for at least a little bit, but then runs back in, takes advantage of the extractor being far enough away, and then, the queen attacks a drone.
Yeah, I saw that too. As we were moving the Sport Crawler, 7 drones for a single cloak Banshee is a lot. Banshee number 2 is going to show up. I'm just going to ask Banshee number 1, how's it been going so far?
Oh, and here it is. Here's the indirect damage. Cham supply blocked.
Yeah, it's definitely struggling a little bit, and the queens are still in the wrong spot too. We are not done losing drones yet. The Hellions are going to try to get lucky, but they will get deflected by those queens, so that was very good queen positioning by Cham. I mean, I gotta say though, we are mentioning the Boxer earlier, or the fighter that just keeps on getting punched in the face, but is actually still able to keep going. That's kind of how Cham is as well, man. Cham just kind of takes it all. He's like, oh, -5 drones, -5 drones, but he's not stopping. He just keeps slamming that drone button, and then you blink twice. You're like, all right. He's 16 Morgans ahead, not bad.
If I was going to continue with that analogy, though, I think for Cham, this would be a Boxer trying to dodge and then dodging into the fist. You know what I mean? Like, he's definitely his own worst enemy when it comes to these mistakes. So, but he is ultimately, like, he's getting punched in the face. He is ultimately doing okay. Getting to 20-minute games, playing them out, winning last game.
I am not calling anything, man, because I can see Kelazhur get 17 victories in a row, but then 84 roaches with 1-1 upgrades run to the other side of the map, and the tanks are on siege, and Cham wins. And then we look silly zombie grow up, so I'm not calling anything. We'll see how it goes. So far, so good for Kelazhur, that's for sure. As I feel like most of the important skirmishes have absolutely gone his way, and the macro of Kelazhur has been totally fine. We've got our first few medevacs on the way as well.
Oh.
I hope that Diego does eventually stop building medevacs. I think that could help.
Actually, he's funny. Caster Curse there. Supply block for Kelazhur too. So he is messing up a little bit as he starts to drop with the medevacs. I am also concerned that I think that was one of the first times he saw the roaches just now, because he didn't actually see the roach warren. But he is building a bunker. He is building tanks. He's got to be very careful on Curious Minds. And 100%, I was not expecting it to get to Curious Minds after the start of the second game. Now that we're here, just believe me, okay? I would have called Cham going 1-1 roaches on Curious Minds 100%. So this is not a surprise, but totally it might still work.
As long as I think Kelazhur doesn't lose the Banshees, he's gonna be fine. That Banshee's so important in the center of the map, runs into the Queens as an overseer. Man, that's actually a really big loss, right? Normally you would say it's maybe not that big of a deal against Ling Bane, but against the way that Cham is playing, he's gonna have a buttload of roaches. He's not gonna have a whole lot of NTS, so I wanted to just praise how golden these Banshees would be. And then he lost one of them. The other one at least is still at home. But I can totally see the scenario, man, where the tanks are exposed and the roaches crawl in from every angle. There is an overseer on the bottom left side of the main base, and I have the feeling that's where the first Nidus is going to be.
Kelazhur can't see it either. It's just out of vision. The overseer, that is. So he's not kind of prepped mentally for it. So the Nidus Storm comes down. He's not paying attention. He's paying attention to the attack on the front side, which also looked questionable. His second tank wasn't sieged, or third actually, but then the 3 tanks were still kind of exposed. Kelazhur is just going to lose this game.
Yep, Cham is absolutely going to win this. 1,000,000 roaches, 1 Banshee is not going to make the difference. Sure, the Marines are doing good on the other side of the map, but the Marines are not going to win against a never-ending string of roaches, especially not if the Queens are here to drop a couple of transfusions as well. It's kind of an awkward fight. These Marines are damn good, and the roaches are kind of stuck. Citizen Ceres, is Kelazhur still going to hold something up?
Yes! Kelazhur is actually, like, that was insane. The amount of SCVs that didn't go down to do that citizen's arrest is kind of crazy. In fact, the ones that went down, I think, was one of the tank splash. the roaches just simply were not attacking. They would have eventually been cleaned up, but they would have killed probably another 15, 20 SCVs. I think at this point, 3 base, 3 orbital, 42 SCVs, 2 upgrades on the way for the Terran. Yeah, I think Kelazhur's fine.
You know, I was looking at the fight on the top left because obviously there were 2 big fights happening at the same time, and Cham was transfusing the hell out of all of his queens, and I guess that is what caused the move command on the roaches in the natural.
Ah, okay, that makes sense then. That's very unfortunate. Figured that he was kind of home free to look away for a few seconds, because usually an SCV surround like that's not going to be so dangerous, so potent, and maybe even thought he was already up the ramp, you know? But no, he was not. Bunch of roaches get contained, they get forced into a little blob, and the tank just free fires all damn day long. And Kelazhur is right back into this game. In fact, you know, we'd actually call this a bit of a lead, just with the 2-2 being done, right? Medevacs aplenty, tank count already on its way back up. Love the contaminate.
Banshee's still alive as well, don't forget about that. And most of the queens went down battling those marines in the top left side while the Nidus was going on as well. So another hatchery is going to get picked off, and that Banshee is just wailing away at the drones that are long distance mining. A lot of firepower in these marines. I'm definitely going to take another look at that SCV fight, and it does feel that Cham is in serious trouble here, but I feel like they have both been in all the trouble multiple times throughout this entire best of 3, and it's still impossible to know who's going to win anything, because you never know with how many medevacs Diego's going to end up.
Right. It'd be very helpful for Kelazhur to have a stop point on it, because it's great that he's producing from the starport consistently, but stop point on the medevacs, maybe out on a couple liberators. You know, that can really throw off Cham for sure, because he also has not been going for any spy replay, so it wouldn't be too easy to clean up. But I don't want to call it at all. I really don't. Even though Cham had a wonderful 60 supply lead, all got thrown away in the natural. Even though Kelazhur now has the upgrade lead, a very comfy looking Terran to me. I was figuring that in the last 2 games, and then it got all topsy-turvy. So nothing's over until someone GG's.
Roaches with tunneling claws, but there is a missile turret near those tanks, so Cham needs to be very careful. He's probably going to test the waters, but soon these roaches are going to show up. Does he know about that turret? No, yeah, I think he did see it before. Oh, no. He's getting so close, though. He's getting in range of the turret, Cham! Cham!
Okay, there you go.